Welcome into the Illinicast. I'm your host, Austin Berkland, alongside my co-host, Sonny Verma. Sonny, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good, Austin. I was doing some counting. I think this is episode 21, so our podcast can officially drink.
It's been needing a drink because it's probably just been waiting and waiting and waiting with the ups and downs of Illini football. But you know what's Illinois celebrates over? It's basketball. So our 21st birthday, we can officially drink and celebrate and talk about some Illini basketball, which we're going to do on the pod tonight. We're going to Sonny, what are your initial impressions of this Illini basketball team? What are you most excited about? What is getting you hyped up for this season?
I think Brad Underwood's strategy, which has changed from getting the young high recruits to now. I mean, he's always talked about the get old, stay old, but this year he really implemented it. We have a lot of experience, a lot of game time coming in onto the floor. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this team on the court come February, come March, because some of the issues that the younger guys may have had, who are still trying to find their roles, who are still trying to find their place in college basketball, I think that may have been ultimately detriment to the ultimate team goal for Illinois basketball. So this year, and we're going to talk about a little bit about it today, and we were going to have a full-on preview sometime next week. I think I'm really looking forward to this team, not necessarily because of the individual names that I've been hearing about on the recruiting circuits, but the camaraderie, the style of play that the team is going to have, the more unselfish. The guys are going to know their roles, and then hopefully we see the jump that Terrence Shannon Jr. and Dane Danger and Coleman Hawkins are going to make.
I mean, you saw the growing pains of a guy like Sky Clark and not figuring out what his role is and how his own individual success kind of trumped what the team's success was. You look at the freshmen coming in this year, they're not going to play much at all, if any, unless like they just completely shine in a non-conference game and that those minutes start to build up by doing those little things, by rebounding, by making the right pass at the right time, playing hard-nosed defense. That's going to get these guys on the court because the scoring they really don't necessarily need out of these freshmen, and they won't need those many minutes because you have old guys like Coleman Hawkins, like Terrence Shannon Jr., like Luke Goody, Marcus Domas comes in, Quincy Guerrier comes in. I mean, the list goes on about guys who have experience with Brad Underwood and experience in college basketball, part of a team environment. And I think that's where the transfers this year are going to change how last year's transfers went, because last year's transfers, they were all after that NBA glory. I feel like they were after like Matthew Meyer, like his shot selection was just atrocious at times. He didn't play within the system of Illinois. So I'm really excited about the team fundamental basketball that this Illini basketball team can bring as opposed to last year.
Yep, because I mean, you brought up Sky Clark. We also had Jaden Epps, and Jaden looked like a dog, and he looked like he was going to be a Brad Underwood guy. A
Well, I
guy
mean,
who
now
had.
he legitimately is a dog by being a Hoya.
Well, yeah, very true. Yeah, he's a guy who I thought by his junior year he was going to be all Big Ten, possibly lead the conference in scoring, and if you believe the rumors about the Georgetown exhibition match, I think he had something like 60 odd points, according to Twitter at least, whatever that's worth. But you can also tell that in his freshman year, that the fit that we thought he could have been with Brad Underwood just wasn't there. We thought he was the guy who could put his head down, listen to advice, listen to some coaching, and just grind it out. But that's almost the opposite of what happened. Everyone remembers, I believe it was the Northwestern game, when we were making that run at the end of the game. Everyone is hyped, except for there's one guy who's just sitting down, wallowing, just not in a good mood. And that was Epps. And I just don't see that happening with, I don't see a player on our team this year that's going to happen with. I think the happiest guy in that locker room is probably Coleman Hawkins. I think last year he was especially frustrated by, you know, he talked about it in that, I think the first press conference after the season ended, how he wishes he had taken control of that locker room a little bit more. And I think he's going to be a little bit more aware of it coming into this season. And, as you mentioned, we have some good, young, talented freshmen coming into the program. And who knows, the point guard might end up playing if Ty Rogers, the Ty Rogers experiment doesn't work out. But we're not looking at them for big roles on this team. This year, Brad can count on his third, fourth, fifth year college basketball players to produce on the court. And that makes me as excited for this year as I've been in the past.
I mean, last year's team kind of had a huge disadvantage because you had those years of Io DeSumo as the no doubt alpha in the locker room. And then once Io DeSumo left, it was a no doubt Kofi Coburn alpha. This past year, I feel like Matthew Meyer thought that he might be the alpha at one point. Sky Clark comes in with that 5-star rating at one point in his high school career. And you had Coleman Hawkins and Terrence Shannon, who was there, but just couldn't really get much momentum in terms of as a transfer coming into that team. And then you had Coleman Hawkins, who was the guy that was there, but he was mostly a glue guy in those years with Io DeSumo and Kofi Coburn. And I think that's a tough task to just supplement yourself as the leader because it's like, dude, you weren't the star whenever Kofi Coburn and Io DeSumo were here. You were just a guy. And to be the guy is a much different conversation. So I think this year is the advantage is that Coleman Hawkins knows who he is, knows what kind of player he is, and I think mentally is ready to make that step. And I think the other teammates are falling in line. And I think having a guy like Luke Goody to be that second, third in command to fall in line is going to help other soldiers in that locker room do the same thing under the leadership of Coleman Hawkins. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Coleman Hawkins lead from the start of the season to the very end.
And if they go forward with the lineup that we had against Ottawa in the exhibition match, Coleman being the leader, Terrence can be the leader on the court when it comes to, giving him the ball at the end of the game. But, everything I've seen of Luke Goody, he seems like a guy who's going to be here for those 4 or 5 years, could get into coaching afterwards. Like in any interview that you listen to him in, he embraces that leadership role. He really feels like he thrives in it. That combined with Marcus Damask, who was one of the leaders last year for a Southern Illinois team,
Hmm.
we have leadership on the court, which is nice because when some of the younger guys do come in, once we have the backups and we can kind of spread it out a little bit, try to keep things a little bit more even keel, not rely so much on young guys who, in certain Big Ten environments, the crowd can get pretty rowdy. It can get pretty loud. And then all of a sudden, we have young guys who are kind of looking to coaching. And let's be honest, Brad Underwood, he himself sometimes needs to calm down. So it's one of those, it's nice to have more calming influences on the court without really sacrificing as much of overall talent. The alpha may not be there that we've had in the past, as you talked about, and we'll probably get more into depth with that in a future episode. But I think the overall talent level, I'm super happy with. I think we legit go 9, if not 10 deep with this team, so foul trouble is not going to be as much of an issue. We do obviously have a very glaring, experiment that we're going to be working on, but I'm really looking forward to this season. Um, especially with the up and down football season that we've had. I'm really hoping that Brad Underwood has kind of, figured things out, zeroed in on what's really important for us right now, and that's more success in March. If we end up in third or fourth place, in the conference this year, I'm really not going to lose any sleep over it. That's no longer a goal for me. I don't think that's a goal for our coaching staff. But I like the players that we brought into the program, and I'm excited to see how they do.
Yeah, we're going to be focusing in on the non-conference of this Illini basketball schedule. We'll get to a full Big Ten breakdown in a later episode, but I'm so intrigued by this non-conference because you look at previous years, we've either had too easy of a schedule with an experienced team, or an inexperienced team with just the toughest schedule imaginable. We have a doozy of a non-conference schedule, don't we, Sonny?
Yeah, we're going to be tested early and often, but that's kind of been Brad's mo, for a long time. So we're going to find out just how good of a team this is going to be. We're going to see folks jump off the bandwagon a little early if things don't go our way. But I like what Brad's doing this year. It's going to be a tough challenge, but I think we're going to be much better for it come March.
Yeah, I think that exhibition game against Kansas is going to help us out a ton. It's a no risk, high reward kind of game just to kind of see where this team is at against top competition. So I'm looking really forward to that game. But then the real season starts with Eastern Illinois and Oakland. Those are two cupcakes. So I'm not exactly scared of those games because of the athleticism that Illinois has. But then in the final Gavitt tip off game, we lost the ACC Classic, ACC Big Ten Challenge last year. We're losing the Gavitt games after this year because the Big Ten and Big East couldn't come to an agreement. We have number 5 Marquette coming to Champaign. That game is going to be so exciting. That Marquette team is old as well, and I think that's going to be a game where Illinois is going to have to shoot the lights out to win.
Yeah, Shaka Smart has found his VCU magic with Marquette. They're going to be playing fast. They're going to be playing tough. It's going to be a really good game, especially for our young guys. They're going to get acclimated real quick to what big time college basketball is all about. I like the fact we do have some veteran guys there, so I'm almost wondering if that's going to be like the first game where we see how important it is for our philosophy of staying old to see them stay on the court. But I think that's a 50-50 game. Marquette's probably going to be favored in that game, but the fact that we have it at home, if we can win that, I think that can kickstart the excitement through the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Bring it on, Orange Crush. It's going to be up to you to help win that game and all the havoc that Shaka Sports team likes to play. And especially Tyler Kolek, who is going to be a National Player of the Year candidate. Him being on that Marquette roster is going to be exciting to watch in Champaign as well. Then Illinois has a stretch of Valpo, not Southern Illinois, but Southern University. And then they play Western Illinois. So two direction schools this year on the schedule, which is kind of fascinating. Then they go to Madison Square Garden to take on the Owls of FAU. Most years that would be a joke. This year, they are the number 10 team in the country. They return all 5 starters from their Final Four team, and that's just a really well coached team over there at FAU.
Really well coached, and their chemistry together is essentially what we want our Illinois team to have. Last year, a couple of those guys could have gone to the NBA and found a small role, but basically one decided to come back, and then they just kind of looked around the locker room and they all decided amongst themselves, "Hey, let's just do this again together." So
I mean, the fact that this could happen 2 years in a row with FAU, it would be like those Butler teams back in the day, and it would be like if George Mason, all those guys from that Final Four team decided, "Hey, let's all come back another year," if they still had eligibility. So the unlikeliness that this happens and how the transfer portal works now in college basketball, the fact that they're still all together is just mind-blowing, and it's something to watch. It's one of my favorite storylines in all of college basketball.
yeah, as you said, a hat tip to their coach. The game is at Madison Square Garden, and it's right around Christmas time, if I recall. So it's going to be a lot of people going to be watching that game, and we'll kind of see if FAU really lives up to their preseason top 10 ranking at that point, or if they have a couple of stumbles early in the season. And as I said, kind of same for us. So at this point, we shouldn't have more than one loss. Marquette, I'll throw it up there as a 50-50, but this is going to be our second biggest challenge and arguably the biggest non-conference challenge that we're going to have. So I think it's going to be a great game.
And then we went from number 10. Then we're just gonna take it up another level, kind of like a Mario level. We have number 9 Tennessee at Tennessee on December 9th. That's going to be a CBS game. That's going to be a raucous environment. I've been in that arena. It's something spectacular. There's a lot of built in history with that women's basketball program. But again, this game is going to be a physical slugfest. And I think Dane Danger is going to be one of the keys in this game.
Yeah, the battle of the shades of oranges between the two, and a Rick Barnes team in January, December is much tougher than a Rick Barnes team in March. So we're getting him into least opportune time.
I mean, just the coaches that Illinois is going up against in this non-conference schedule is just a murderer's row of Shaka Smart. You have Rick Barnes. You got FAU's coach who went to a Final Four, and Missouri's coach is also just really spectacular as well. But moving on, we have Colgate on December 17th. Then we have the bragging rights game on December 22nd. 8 p.m. FS1, Illinois versus Mizzou. And Mizzou has won 2 years in a row in this game. And it's about time that Illinois takes the crown because this series, it's like Missouri wins 8 in a row, Illinois wins 8 in a row. So we got to stop the bleeding. Don't want one of those long stretches to prolong in this streak.
Yeah, the last 2 years I've felt sick to my stomach losing to those Missouri teams, and this year I think we got the right guys on the court who are I'm hoping gonna embrace this rivalry. It really is one of the few rivalries that we still have left, and we got to take care of business this year.
And no Kobe Brown, thank God. He was a stud in last year's game. I went to last year's bragging rights game, and I was expecting the world from this Illinois team, and just to fall completely flat in that environment is very lousy. So I hope that Coleman Hawkins and Terrence Shannon learn from that environment and will play with a little bit more fire after the way they saw Kobe Brown just score any way possible he wanted to against Illinois.
Yeah,
Then
yeah, good.
then we have Fairleigh Dickinson. Why are they substantial? They upset number 16 Purdue, number 1 Purdue as the 16 seed in the NCAA tournament last year. So at least we don't have a 7-foot guy that they can just play ring around the rosy with, and if they shut him off, then nobody else can score. So at least Illinois has some guys that can move the basketball and score and drive and have some built-in athleticism to not have this Cinderella story continue on at the end of December.
Yeah, let's avenge our Big Ten brethren.
I don't really want to avenge them. I just want to brag that we didn't get embarrassed by Fairleigh Dickinson. So we'll let Purdue still have those laughs as well. But that's the non-conference slate, Sonny. There's some lulls in there, but there are some stretches where Illinois better bring their lunch pail and be ready to go to work, because if they're not, this non-conference can turn the difference between being a number 4 seed versus being a number 2 seed. But on the opposite end, it also can be the difference between being a 5 seed and being an 8 seed.
I mean, that Marquette game in particular, FAU, Tennessee, those are type of teams that we're going to have to beat in order to get over the hump and make it into the Sweet 16 come March. You know, Shaka again, he's got a system which if you're not ready for it, it makes opposing teams nervous. It gets their hands shaking a little bit. The loose balls. And the environments, especially Champaign against that Marquette against Marquette, Madison Square Garden against FAU, Tennessee and SEC school. We're talking about three environments that are also legit going to feel like March Madness, and so the games aren't going to be easy, and there's absolutely a world out there where we lose all three. But will it be concerning? Sure. Is it the end of the world? Not really, because for me, what's going to be important is to see how we play in those particular conditions. The only one that I'll be sad about is if we lose to Missouri again. But even again, Missouri is a good team. It really doesn't matter when if Missouri is really really good and we're really really bad, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. Every single one of those games, the rivalry is kicked up a notch. The play each other. So again, that is a good feeling, good vibes for what they're going to see when the games matter a lot more in late February, early March.
Here's what I also love about this schedule is the difference in styles that Illinois is going to see. So they aren't going to be surprised in March whenever they see a Havoc style defense or a Rick Barnes style team or a team that just plays great fundamental basketball and how do you beat them in like FAU. So I love that this team is going to be well diverse in how they have to play basketball in the early part of the season. And then of course they have the physical play of the Big Ten to worry about. So unless they're playing a Princeton style offense in March, they're going to be well versed in all different styles of basketball.
Yeah, and and again, they're going to be a veteran presence. Like hopefully the guys stay young. Um, by mid-season, hopefully in the non-conference side, we'll know whether Ty Rodgers is working out or not in the position that he's going to be hoisted at point guard. So it's all about preparing the team, and I know I keep kind of repeating myself, but I really think Brad doesn't care as much for the non-conference or even the regular conference season this year. I think that's one of the reasons he's scheduling the way he's scheduling. I think right now it's all about getting these guys into position so that come March, Brad can jump, get over that hump, quiet a lot of people down. And, he's a top 10 paid coach in the country. And yeah, like the turnaround that he's pulled off at the University of Illinois has been incredible. But historically, Illinois has been a pretty good basketball program. So the fact that we haven't reached that Sweet 16, that Elite Eight, it's with each year that passes by, it's becoming more and more glaring. And, it's something that he needs to fix sooner rather than later.
All right, looking at those big four games, Missouri, Tennessee, FAU, and Marquette, what is your record expectations in those four games?
I think I'm going to say we lose to Marquette, and it's going to be a bummer. But Marquette's just, I think they have a lot of cohesiveness going on right now, where it's so early in the match for us
That is
that
third game of the year.
exactly we have a lot of new guys on the team who are still trying to figure each other out. Um, you know, Champagne's going to be rocking that night. I think it's going to be a close loss in that particular game. I do think FAU will beat. Um, I think at that point, our team will have had a couple months to play together, have found each other's roles. And I think just the overall talent level on our team is better than FAU. So it'll kind of overcome the continuity that they have. Missouri, I'm going to say we have to win. So I'm going to chalk that up as a win because if we don't win that one, it's going to be 3 years of sadness in a row. Tennessee, it's kind of a toss up. The fact that it's in Knoxville, no, forget it. Illinois goes 3-1. I'm gonna say we win
I
that
got
game.
I got Illinois at 2-2. I think they lose to Tennessee and lose to Marquette, but they'll gain against FAU and they'll gain against Missouri. And I think 2-2 would be a successful stretch in those four games still. And then really the season is defined by January in the Big Ten, but we'll get to the Big Ten on a later podcast. But this non-conference slate, if they lose two of those games and win the rest and don't get completely upset by a crazy team like Colgate or Valparaiso or something like that, then I think I'm just happy with how they've played in the non-conference slate.
I mean, I'd be happy. Not happy. That's a wrong choice of words, but I'd be content even if we won one out of those four, because I mean those are some pretty good. There's pretty good competition there, and in particular that Marquette is going to be a tough matchup for us. So, but again, I just want to see us belong. I don't want to see us get blown out. I want to see the young guys learning, get better each and every game. Like the excuse I might give them for Marquette doesn't mean I'm going to give them that same excuse in around Christmas time against FAU or Tennessee. If we're still kind of getting run out of the building, or we look nervous, or unsure of ourselves when the Tennessee comes around, then all of a sudden we got some questions, and a little nerves, going into our actual conference season.
Sonny, that was a great show. We had talked a lot about the Illini preview and non-conference preview, and I am so looking forward to this basketball season.
Yeah, it's a nice little break. I do wish we had some Illinois football to watch this weekend, but we don't. But next week should be equally as fun. We're going to be releasing our official basketball preview episode, so make sure you tune in for that. And later on in the week, we'll have our preview for the Illinois Minnesota football game.
And we might have a special guest midweek as well, is what I hear.
Then that's what the little birdies are saying. Hopefully, we'll be able to confirm later on in the week.
That sounds great. Sonny, thank you for a great episode.
Austin, always a pleasure.